Hi everyone, Elsie Jensen here. Tonight we are going to make some chicken fajitas with some guacamole, corn salsa, and some homemade sourdough tortillas. So let's start by prepping up our veggies to be sauteed, and then we'll prep our meat, and then we'll start on our tortillas. So I've got 2 yellow onions here. We're going to cut the tops and get this whole kind of outer layer off for both of them. And then we'll do nice long little strips so that they go nicely in our homemade tortillas. So little like fajita vegetables. It's a Fiesta Friday, not a very rainy day. Okay, let's get our onions, nice little thin strips. I'm using yellow onions here. They will caramelize up nicely, and then will just work really well for the sauteed vegetable part of tonight's dinner. And there we go. I'm going to turn on my skillet here. We're going to add in some oil. I'm going to add in about maybe 1.5 tablespoons because we've got a couple of good vegetables here we're going to start to saute up. I'm going to add in my onions. And let me grab a pair of tongs and just kind of break these apart. And we're going to just let these start to saute up. Then we'll add in our peppers next. And those will be our fajita veggies. There we go. And I've got a green pepper today and a yellow pepper. So we're going to start by cutting off the tops of each pepper. Fun fact, if your pepper has 4 nubs on the bottom, it's a female. If it has 3, it's a male. Females are supposed to taste better than males. They're supposed to be a little bit sweeter.
Give a comment that Chef Teddy did a great job on his sourdough.
He did. He was so proud of it too, like eating it and everything. And then when his grandparents came over, he was like showing them his loaf and he was beaming at it. I have to say, he did a pretty good job because he mixed up his dough for it. And I was like, you know what? I really think this is going to turn into a loaf. So we baked it up and there was no measurements whatsoever. It was him just pouring random ingredients in, you know. But he did a fantastic job and he was so cute. I said, he's such a little ham. Okay, we're going to do our nice little long strips of our peppers as well. So I'm in the tops of it because I don't like to waste any part of our pepper. And then we're going to cut. And again, we'll do some nice long strips. Again, I find it easier to cut our peppers if you cut them from the inside versus from the outside in. The inside is a bit more rough, which means your knife will get a better hold on and less likely to slip and slide. We're going to just do some nice long thin strips, just like you would at a restaurant for your fajitas. Here we go. And now for the green. I was opting, I had like this one green pepper, and I'm typically not a huge fan of green bell peppers. I think they have a bit more bitter flavor, but they'll go well in tonight's skillet, kind of with the fajitas. And they'll add a nice pop of green. Here we go. That one's a little fatter than I want. Okay, so we've got our peppers here in a nice long thin strips. That way they'll saute up and will lay nicely in our tortillas. Let me give this a nice little toss.
Yeah, but how Torn do at his basketball game?
He did great. He was the tallest kid by a long shot for the first game. The second game, there was another kid who was like a giant like him. But it's so funny at this age where boys go through like the different varying levels of puberty. And this is a summer league. So it had rising seventh, eighth, and ninth graders, and Torrance a rising eighth grader. But some of them, he was a foot and a half taller than me. He is giant. I mean, he's almost 6 foot. So he did great, but it was kind of comical to see him. And I'm just like, oh, buddy, you can block their shots just by standing over them. But he did great. To pull through, got a little tired for the last game because, it was a doubleheader late at night and they went to the zoo yesterday. So I think we'll have to make sure he's a little bit more rested for the next one. I've got my chicken breasts here. We're going to cut them up into nice kind of thin strips. That way when we saute them up, they'll saute up nicely. So I cut them in half first. I always say butterfly, but since I cut them all the way through, it's technically not a butterfly. This is a boneless chicken breast, but I found a bone. It's a lie. So we're going to cut the strips. I like to cut my chicken strips nice and thin for fajitas so that they'll cook up really fast and they'll be a bit more tender and less tough. And that way also, when they're thinner, they won't be so bulky in your fajita. It'll be easier to cut through or bite through. So I'm going to cut these up and then we'll marinate them and let them kind of sit until we're ready to saute them up. Make sure that wasn't a bone. So we've got about, I want to say, close to 3 pounds of chicken breast here for tonight. Although I will say with fajitas are one that you probably go even less on the meat. But I got a big family pack of the chicken. So I was like, I'll use half now and we'll use half for another one. Again, if you see any bits of fat, cut them off because, again, they'll just be chewy and they won't taste as good. And I find that the cuts of meat nowadays seem to have a lot of fat on them. I just don't remember them having as much fat on them as when I was younger, in my youth. Okay, we're going to cut again. I'm going to cut this through to thin it up. That way our strips are even thinner than if I were to go with the whole one. And they make them a little bit more tender when you cut the chicken against the grain. They'll be more tender when you cook up. Okay. And going down. We're going to marinate these. We're going to use some A1 steak sauce. Normally I would use Worcestershire sauce, but I'm out of it and I have yet to go to the store. And then we'll use some liquid smoke to give it a nice smoky flavor. Some lime juice and then some seasonings as well. And of course, garlic salt. Can't live without my garlic salt. But when in doubt, I can always get it overnight with Amazon. It's always a win. I was hoping I could get my Worcestershire sauce shipped, but that was unfortunately, I could not get my Worcestershire sauce overnight unless I wanted a big 5-gallon jug of Worcestershire sauce. And I was like, I don't know if I'm going to go through that much. I do use it a lot, but not that much. I don't need a restaurant quantity, even though sometimes I feel like I'm feeding a whole restaurant here. Okay, we've almost got these all nice and thin. Beautiful. Have my hands. A quick rinse over here and we'll toss these onions. Good. I'm going to toss our onions. We're getting that nice skillet char on them. And the best way to get that is to let your onions sit and char up for a little bit. Try not to stir them too much. That way they'll get those good crispy edges on it, as if, in the Mexican restaurant when they come out on those nice cast iron skillets. So we're going to let that sit there for just a second. We're going to use a little bit of our A1 steak sauce. This is essentially a vinegar and tomato paste blend, but the acidity from the vinegar in there is going to really make the chicken nice and juicy. So I put probably about a tablespoon or so on here. We're going to use a little bit of liquid smoke. A little goes a long way. So I'm just going to pour it in my cap so I don't go too much, but about a half a teaspoon. And this is going to give you a nice kind of smoky flavor as if we did these out on the grill. Just adds a little extra. And this is my produce knife, so I want to keep it over here. I'm going to squirt some lime juice over this. This is going to just add a nice acidity to it as well. Keep the chicken nice and juicy. This is a very juicy lime. There we go.
You got a question? Can you put liquid smoke in burgers?
Yep. You can put liquid smoke in anything. It is really great. Whenever I do pulled pork in the Instapot, I put liquid smoke in there so it makes it feel like I smoked my pork when I did not. But yes, I love liquid smoke as a flavor enhancer to give you that feel like you've smoked it, but you didn't. So it just adds a nice flavor, but a little goes a long way. We're going to do a couple of shakes of garlic salt here. And then I have a Mexican Fiesta seasoning blend, which has just it has chili peppers, onion, tomato, paprika, cumin, garlic, cilantro, oregano, cayenne. So just a bunch of nice kind of not chili powder based, but and kind of the other flavors of Mexican like cuisine, or let's say Tex-Mex. We're going to sprinkle about a tablespoon over this. Give it a nice little bit. And then we'll use some of our good old classic taco seasoning. I think this is always just a nice add on. This has a chili powder, a lot of chili powder in it, so it has that more earthy flavor to it. Let's give our onions a quick stir here. Now that they've all got a good little char on them, we're going to add in our peppers.
Yeah,
and let them.
What was the Mexican spice called?
It is called Mexican Fiesta seasoning. I believe I got this from Whole Foods. I turned on my wrong skillet over here. I want to get my skillet over here starting to warm up for our tortillas. Get these peppers in. And I'm going to give this a nice little stir. And we'll have them start to kind of char up. I like to do the onions first because I wanted them to kind of get a little bit of that caramelization on them as well. Bring out their flavors a bit more. Because if you try to cook the peppers and the onions at the same time, the onions won't get quite as nice of a flavor on them. And to me, onions are a star. Okay. I'm going to let those guys saute and grab another tongs. I will say they're probably my most used utensil outside of my knife. I'm going to give these a nice little stir. Kind of let them kind of soak up in the flavor here. I'm just tossing them so it all gets coated, not just the stuff on the top. Here we go. You don't want to have your marinade to be like a super wet one because when we saute this up, we do want them to get a kind of skillet crispy edge to them. So I try to minimize the amount of liquids I use in them. There we go. Okay. Let's do a little switch. And this will be ready. Let's start getting our tortillas nice and ready. So I whipped up some sourdough discard tortillas. I used a slightly different recipe because I didn't start my other one, which I like to let sit for a couple of hours. So this one has a little bit of baking powder in it. If it wants to come out of the bowl. There we go. It's a little bit more malleable. I'm going to get a nice handful of flour here and kind of coat it. And then I have my tortilla workstation. There you go. That way it doesn't stick to me. But I'm hoping that because this is a very soft dough, that these are going to turn out a little bit thinner than my other one. But they basically are made with a cup of disc. Well, I doubled the recipe, so I used 2 cups of sourdough discard with about 1.5 cups of flour, half a cup of water, and about a 1/4 cup of olive oil, a teaspoon of baking powder, a teaspoon of salt, and just mix that up. And we just kind of let the flour rehydrate. And I'm hoping they'll turn out nice. Oh, look. These are very nice and thin. I'm hoping I might need to flour them more. Again, this is a slightly different recipe. But more flour. But it's sliding off. There we go. This one will be our test one. Won't be the most beautiful one, but it's kind of like your test waffle is always your funny looking waffle. Okay, let's flour this up next time. There we go. And that way, we won't have an issue. And this is just a good old tortilla press. It's kind of just using the weight to smush it nice and thin. There we go. Much easier. Okay. Get our tongs here. A nice little stir. We're going to let these kind of saute up. Add a little bit of salt at the very end. I'm going to give my hands a quick wash. Okay. Grab a spatula for when that's ready. My first tortilla always takes the longest because the skillet is not quite heated like up to the right heat. So it always takes a little bit longer. But while that is waiting, we are going to prep our corn salsa and our guacamole because you can't have fiesta night without those. So for our corn salsa, we're going to add in some green onions. I'm going to cut off the white parts of the green onions because those aren't going to be as nice in my corn salsa. We're going to do nice little thin slices. And then we're going to add in some sweet peppers and some fresh cilantro and some lime juice and garlic salt. And that's pretty much all you need for a corn salsa. It's very similar to the one that you can get at Chipotle. I absolutely love it. It's super simple but delicious. So we've got our diced up green onions. Let's start with 1 red pepper, sweet pepper, not spicy. Now, if you want to add a little bit of kick, you can use a jalapeno pepper and dice that up and put it in there. But again, we are the biggest spice babies in this house, so we do them pretty much plain Janes. And so we've got a nice sweet pepper. This will give you that crunch, a mild pepper flavor without the spice. Into the corn salsa we go. And now I can see we're getting a little bit of a bubble action here. Okay, this is going to be our first one, which is our tester one. Oh, fresh cilantro from my garden. I went out in the rain and I picked this. I was like, oh, please don't. I mean, we've been having some pretty bad lightning here recently. And earlier I was driving out to like pick up my car from like getting an oil change. And there was such bad straight line winds here. And I'm like, it's of course when I need to go out and pick up my car is when it's storming. And I'm just like, please, no trees fall. Tennessee's been having some really bad storms recently. I feel like everywhere has. Okay, we're going to add in our diced up cilantro. There we go. Let me give our peppers a nice little stir. There we go. We're getting more of that char on them. Beautiful. Okay. We're going to add a little bit of salt. I always do this towards the end of their cooking so it doesn't stick to the bottom. And just a smidge. You don't need a lot, but I will say it brings out their flavor, makes them a little bit nicer. Okay. And now I'm going to move this over to my warming center. And it's going to sit there because we're going to cook up our chicken. Make sure there's no water in there. We had a bubble the other day. Okay. We're going to put in our oil. And we're going to let it come to a nice, like, hot temperature before we put the chicken in because we want to kind of sear it off.
Yeah, question. Did you season the peppers and onions with anything?
Just a little bit of garlic salt. We're going to have them, they'll be with our fajita chicken that we've kind of seasoned up well. But I kind of keep them pretty mild, pretty plain. Here we go. So this is my funky first tortilla. And let's put our second one out. I'm going to give it a quick, this is the one we kind of rolled out. I'm just going to give it a nice, make it a little bit thinner. I'm going to add this guy on here. Let that one toast up. And while this one, I like to put a little bit of butter on it so that it will be nice and malleable. That kind of helps make it malleable. And then we're going to get our next one going. Make sure I have lots of flour on it so it doesn't stick. And going here. I said, nothing's better than homemade tortillas. Now, these are flour tortillas, not corn, and they are made using my sourdough discard. So slightly different than your traditional tortillas, but so good. Look at that. Okay, that one turned out really nice. I'm going to turn my skillet down here now that it's nice and hot. I will say the first one takes 5 times as long as the rest, but then it goes pretty fast after this. That will probably be there. Let's get our corn salsa. Let me grab some spoons for this and for our guacamole. And I bet you this is ready to flip. Yep, and got those nice little spots on it. That's when you kind of know. Okay, for the corn salsa, we've got corn, and that's just frozen corn that's been, I like warmed it up to room temperature, green onions, a diced up sweet pepper, cilantro, and now we're going to add in our lime juice. And this is going to add that nice like acid flavor, like the acidity that you need. And garlic salt. Just a little shake, maybe like a half a teaspoon. And you've got yourself corn salsa that tastes just like Chipotle's corn salsa. I swear, it is like just like it. So good. Okay. Move it there. I'm going to put our chicken in and let it start to saute. I'll probably do it in a little bit at a time to get those first ones kind of crisping up, and then we'll move them to the side and add some more to the middle. There we go. Beautiful. We got our next one. Put that on there. And then I'm going to put a little bit of this, just a little bit of butter right over the top. This is going to keep them nice and soft and malleable. Adds in a little extra flavor. Sprinkle a little bit of flour here. Kind of make a little ball. And then we'll make our next tortilla. And I will say, you always want to use the parchment paper between your tortilla press. Just makes it easier with the with it coming off. There we go. Perfect. Look at that. Another nice one that will be ready to go up. Okay, let's get our avocados going for our guacamole. Make our little down. Hopefully they're all good. That's a good one. What I do is I start ripening them on my counter. And then once they've got that kind of soft touch to them, I pop them in the fridge. That one, no bueno. Look, felt good, but not good. So I always make sure I have some extra. Oops, another good one. I know, I feel like avocados, you never know. They can go bad so quickly, and you don't know if somebody's dropped one. And if they drop it, it can look and appear nice, but it will be all brown and gross inside. Okay. Let's scoop these out. There we go. Whoop. And that seed just popped out there. And these are really small little pits. Normally I get really big ones, so kind of lucked out. Got a lot of avocado with mine today, which makes up for my one being not so great over there. Okay. Let's flip our chicken here.
You have questions? Do you like avocado toast?
I love avocado toast, and Chef Teddy loves avocado toast. I guarantee you tonight he is going to ask me to make him avocado toast, as in he'll want me to spread the guacamole on his on some toast. A lot of times I try to be like, we can spread it on the tortilla, but he's like, nope, I want it on toast. Let's see how. Oh, beautiful. This guy is nice and done. I'm gonna add that over here. We'll put our next one on. And then we're gonna rub just a smidge bit of butter on it. There we go. So make these nice and soft. And then I'm gonna pinch off again, just a little bit of our dough. Shape it into a ball. And then get ours flattened out. And it's really no work. It's just a flat down and up, and voila, we've got our nice, beautiful tortilla. Now with corn tortillas, they will stay flatter. They won't snatch back in. And so that's one thing that's like the nice thing about corn is they'll stay nice and thin. Okay, let's start getting our guacamole ready here. We are going to add in our lime juice. I'm going to use one whole lime, and good, this is a nice and juicy lime. Look at that. I always love it when the limes are juicy. There we go. You can see how much they're coming out. I'm just squeezing them until they are. And then we're going to add some garlic salt. That's like a very simple guacamole that I make. It's just fresh lime juice and garlic salt. And you want about a teaspoon or so of garlic salt. And then use your fork and really smash them down. I think the fork works better than the spoon. And you're just going to go through it and you're going to mix everything together. And this is just going to give you a really great, simple guacamole. You can add chopped up onions, tomatoes, and peppers in here if you want. But I prefer simplicity. My kids like it too. They like it just simple like this. They think it's much nicer. Okay. There we go. Let's take a quick pause because I think our tortilla needs to be flipped. There we go. And our chicken. Look at this, nice and sauteed. So I'm going to push this over to one edge. because we'll put the rest up there. That way I don't have to take it out in a different pan, and they're all going to get heated up and keep it nice and warm. But it allows, if I were to put all of the chicken in at one time, I wouldn't get the nice crispy edges on it. There we go. So we'll let these saute up over here. They'll all get cooked in the heat. So it doesn't matter if they touch each other because they'll all be in there warming up. There we go. I'm going to move my burner so the hot part is touching those. Okay. Let's see how this is cooking. Just a smidge longer on that. Let's get this guy fully mashed up. There we go. This is, I will say, this is the way my kids always love it. A lot of times we'll go places and they'll put like the onions and the peppers and they're like, oh, why did they do that? And I'm like, I know. We have a very simple one, but simplicity is sometimes the best. Okay. Let's cut up our pineapple that we're waiting for. I'm going to wash my knife so it doesn't have any cilantro or onion flavor to it. And I've got 2 pineapples here to serve up. And I just find pineapple just goes well with Mexican food. So we're going to serve these, cut them up. I'm going to cut off the tops and bottoms. That way it'll be easier for me to quarter them and decore them. I always cut up my own pineapple because these 2 pineapples right here cost me less than $6. And I guarantee you I will not be able to find as much pineapple for a fraction of the price.
Do you have a question? Have you ever made a pineapple salsa?
No, you know what? I don't think I have. I've done mango salsa before, but I haven't done pineapple. But I have done grilled pineapple, which I find is delicious. I'm going to put this out here. I'm going to give it a little stretch. Let's get our next one prepped and ready so that we can have it. And then, there we go. Just going to dab it in the flour here just so it doesn't stick too much to my thing. Yep. Should put the weight down. Here we go. Perfect. Okay.
How can you tell a pineapple is a good one?
A good one, most of the time when you buy them from the store, they're not ripe. You want to wait until they start to turn golden, and that's when you're going to know they're ready to cut up. So a lot of times you get them, they're dark green. That's going to be a bitter, unripe one. Wait until you've got the golden starting to poke through, the green is turning more and more yellow. That's when you're going to know that it's nice and sweet and ready to cut up. Look how dark yellow it is. So I typically, when I buy my pineapple, it sits on my counter for a couple of days before I cut it up. And so what I do is now you've cut the tops off so you have a nice flat surface. Then I'm going to cut them into quarters. And we just take off the core like this. And then I'll slide my blade down along to remove it. Make sure you remove the seeds. Those seeds will turn your pineapple brown in a day. So they just really ripen it up. They won't change the flavor, but they'll turn them colors. And if your kids are anything like my kids, as soon as it starts to go brown, they're like, oh, these are inedible. Okay. So we just kind of cut along here. And we'll pop them in. But it is, I will say, pineapple, I think, is the worst offender in paying the store to cut it up. They charge you so much money for them to cut it up. And it takes, once you learn how to do it, it takes you like no time at all to cut it up. And, you know, we're a large family, so we'll probably eat, you know, I will say 80% of this pineapple tonight. If it's a super sweet one, the kids might even eat it all. And so I don't want to be spending, $20 a pop for them to cut it up when I can cut it up myself and save the difference. It's a way where you can still give your kids great fresh fruit, but if you just take the time to do it yourself, you'll save yourself so much money, and you're not really sacrificing that much time to do it. And I always try to do it while I'm prepping dinner. So I've got one already chopped up. Let's flip our chicken here. Look at that. You got these nice golden brown spears on it. Lovely. Oh, man overboard. There we go. Okay. Let's check on our tortilla here. Beautiful. And I'm going to clear off my board. And we're going to get the next one cut up. And again, cut the tops and the bottom off so you have a nice flat surface to work on. Then you're just going to cut it down the middle, cut it right through the core. You'll see a circle in the middle. And then the same thing, you're going to cut it right through. And that way, when you are cutting off this triangle part right here, when you cut this off, that's your hard, crunchy core. And the rest is your nice, tender pineapple. And you get pretty close to it. So you actually, I think, get more off than they do in the store. A lot of times in the store, whoa, good catch with my thigh. In the store, a lot of times they have those machines that have a lot of waste too. There's a Publix here in town that has where you can pick out your pineapple and they'll decore it at the store for you. You put it in, but it wastes like half your pineapple because it has a one size fits all, but nope, 2 pineapples are the exact same size and shape. So it takes a bit too much, and so you lose a lot more as well. Let's see. Get these chopped up. And I will say, if you have little ones at home, like that are teething, my little ones love to chew on those. They're really sweet, and they feel great on their gums. And so I'll give them to my ones, especially if they, when they're first starting to teeth around a year, because they can't bite through them. So it's just a great thing for them to gnaw on. Okay. This one, we've just got 1/4 left, but I'm pretty sure this guy is ready to come off. He is. Beautiful. Let's put this guy on. Got that one. Again, I spread a little bit of butter on it. This just helps keep them nice and malleable. We're going to sprinkle a little on my parchment paper. I'm going to pinch off and then just shape it into a little ball first. That way it just goes into a slightly smoother one. And there we go. And press it down. And we've got this guy ready to go next. And I'm cooking my tortillas on about a 3.5 or 4. They don't need to be super high. They'll cook up pretty quickly. So don't do them too high or you'll scorch them. Okay, and then I think our chicken is just about done here. I'm making sure I get that nice kind of sauteed crispy edge on them. Okay. We've got, look at that big bowl of pineapple that we cut up in no time at all, which makes it nice. We have fresh fruit for dinner, and I think it goes well. So here we go. Beautiful. So here's our sauteed fajita meat. Beautiful. I'm going to turn my skillet off there. It is nice and gorgeous. Let me switch this. I do have my warmer on, so these should be still nice and hot. Keeps the pan just nice and warm back there. And let's flip this guy. I think we are actually about ready to serve up because I won't make you guys sit through me making the rest of the tortillas for my kids. I'll call them in and they'll get some assembled out of their own. But let's start by doing it. So let me grab 2 of my tortillas here. And we are going to start assembling. Let me grab 1 spoon real quick for our pineapple. Okay. How we're going to serve up our lip, and let's just look how soft these are. They're so malleable that, you know, they'll be just great and easy to pick up for them. We're going to start with a nice layer of our sauteed chicken on our sourdough tortillas that we use our sourdough discard with. So we're filling them up here. Then we're going to add in our fajita veggies, which is sauteed peppers and onions. And we spiced our chicken with some Mexican fiesta seasoning, taco seasoning, a little bit of liquid smoke. And then we are going to add a nice big serving of our corn salsa on top, which is so good. On each one, and that's made with, you know, corn, green onions, peppers, and cilantro, lime, and garlic salt. And of course, a nice dab of our guacamole. And then, last but definitely not least, we've got our pineapple, a nice little side of pineapple, so just really fresh bit to go with it, and some chips and salsa. Well, guys, thank you so much for joining us here today, but I do want to show you guys one thing. Earlier today, we made our lime pie, and it has finally set. So I wanted to see if you guys weren't with us with our lunchtime stream, our key lime pie. My kids have been like, when is it ready? When is it ready? And I said, it'll be ready for dinner tonight, but it's nice and firm. This is a no-bake key lime pie that we made with cream cheese and sweetened condensed milk and fresh lime juice. But guys, thank you again for joining us here today. Don't forget to like and subscribe. I try to do live cooking shows every single day. I try to show you what we're cooking for our family and hopefully teach you guys something along the way. Again, we do upload all of our videos to the link on our page. So if you ever want to recreate any of our recipes at home, you can just go to that link, search for what we made, and then you can hopefully cook along with me at home. We also have an Amazon storefront, so if you saw anything here that you saw me cooking with in the kitchen and you were interested in it, you can check that out. Our link's on our profile page. We do make a small commission if you do purchase anything like that, but it's just a great way to figure it out. I actually have my tortilla press that we used tonight. It's in there. I added that to my storefront as well as my pans and all that jazz. So I know lots of people have questions about it and where I got it from, but it's all on my Amazon storefront. Well, guys, thank you so much for joining us here today. Don't forget